It does have to include locations, maps, street addresses, location ID, GPS coordinates. Anywhere you're going to grow, if you're going to grow, or anywhere you're going to process, if you're going to process, you have to have all of that. And that's really no different from any other state's programs that we've worked with. And all of that information, you can get GPS coordinates all day from Google Maps. You can get all the maps that you need to do any of those things. And that's usually what's submitted with the applications. Questions they're going to want to know is if you're going to be a grower, where are you getting your genetics? You have to know that. You have to know that before you apply. If you're going to be a processor, where are you going to get your biomass? Where are you going to get your crop that you're actually going to process? You have to know that. It has to be on your application. How will you ensure you're remaining compliant with the rules, state and federal laws? This catches a lot of people. We've seen this state after state after state. A lot of things that happen, I guess probably the two most common things that happen with hemp farmers across the nation. The two things that hold people up more than anything, number one, is there's no infrastructure in the state. They don't already know where they're getting their genetics. They don't know if they're getting good genetics. They don't know what they're going to do with them. And they surely don't know what's going to happen to that crop at the end of the growing cycle. They thought, we'll plant it. We've got 4 months to figure this out. And at the end of that, it still sits there. There's hundreds of acres every year that's planted that's not harvested because there's not an infrastructure to take that down. So everybody, a lot of people that contact us, they go, hey, I want to be a hemp farmer. A lot of people think it's easy, and it's hard work. The guy in the back room, there's a couple guys around here that have worked in our fields, and they'll say that's like going back to 1930. It's tiresome, 12-hour days, working. But we've learned a lot. We know how to do some things a lot easier, but it's not simple. I'm not going to sit up here and sugarcoat it for anybody and tell you how easy it is. Because if I do that, and that's what you set yourself up for, you will fail. So, how will you make sure you're compliant? That's another one of those big things. A lot of people think, well, I'll plant it. We'll talk a little bit later with Kyle. He's going to talk about analytics and testing. The state requires a test. They're going to test your crop at the end. A lot of people, that 0.03 though, all of your cannabinoids pretty much spike at almost the same time. So as CBD is spiking up in the last week or two, CBG, CBN, your other cannabinoids, THC is also spiking at that exact same time. So how do you remain compliant and make sure by the time the state comes out, takes your crop down, or you're going to take your crop down obviously, but by the time they take the samples to go through their test, that you're going to remain 0.3 or under. If it goes over 0.3, you're no longer hemp. Federally, you're marijuana. So the state will have what we typically see. Most states have a little bit of leniency on that, but you don't get that same leniency usually twice. So what are you going to do? We'll talk about that tonight, some things that you can do if you decide to plant hemp to make sure that you do remain compliant. Hemp, from the THC standpoint, from the cannabinoid standpoint, first and foremost, you need good genetics. The second thing you need is you need a good environment to plant it in. And we don't know from day to day if we're going to get 6 inches of rain in 2 hours. We're going to get a tornado, a hailstorm, whatever. You can't plan for that, especially you guys that are farmers, you know that. So the environment does change the cannabinoid profile a little bit. So it's genetics by environment. That changes a little bit. And so you've got your genetics, you've got your environment, and the other thing you have to have is good farming practices. You have to have best practices to make sure that year in and year out, you're remaining compliant through that process. And we've done that. We do it now in 6 states. We've never had a partner that we work with ever test hot in any state on any crop.